Let's bring in our F1 analyst, Tim Hauraney, to break this race down. And it was a hectic, rain-filled race on Sunday. Ultimately, Max Verstappen pulls it off and ties the all-time F1 record with his 9th straight win, Tim. We've seen some dominant drivers in the past, but is this the most dominant season by a driver that you've ever seen?
Yeah, I think so, Glenn. I mean, this race really encapsulates just how dominant, Max has been this season. If you look at just how chaotic the whole situation was with the changing weather conditions at the start, wheeling a race car around in the rain with slick tires on, jumping onto the intermediates, having to manage all of that, and then also trying to undercut your teammate Sergio Perez. And so for Max in that moment, he can't make any mistakes like touch a curb that's really wet or brake on a little white line, because those things will send you off the track and then into the wall. And so he's got to manage that. And then on top of all of that, Glenn, he has to manage all of these fans, the home pressure that he's had to deal with all weekend. And so you have to find a way as a driver to deal with all that, to cut out all of the noise and just focus on the job at hand. And then if we look at this teammate comparison, Sergio Perez being 1.3 seconds off of Max in qualifying on Saturday. And yes, I do understand that the car is getting developed away from Sergio, but still, it just shows you that Max is in a completely different area code than a lot of these other drivers on the grid right now.
And Max can claim the record outright next week. Tim, any reason to believe that won't happen?
Look, I'll double down on what I said earlier, and I'll say he'll be even more dominant in Monza. This is a track I know really well. I raced on it before in the past, and it's a lot different from Zandvoort, the track that we were just at. Zandvoort's really tight, it's twisty, it requires a car that needs a lot of high downforce on it. You go to Monza, you need a car that can shed all that downforce and be really fast in a straight line. It's a big power track, and I think the RB19 is going to kick a lot of butt at this track next weekend. And I don't see why Max Verstappen can't own this record outright by the end of the Italian Grand Prix next weekend.
Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso, he gets back on the podium. Now, second best car. It's been a season-long game of musical chairs. What should we read into Alonso's performance from Sunday?
Yeah, it tells me that Aston Martin is right back into the mix of things, being that second or third fastest team on the grid. Aston Martin brought some pretty big upgrades to the car this weekend, and in particular, the floor and the diffuser of the race car. And those are high development areas, so you can gain back a lot of performance if you really nail those types of upgrades. And hearing from Aston Martin throughout the weekend, it really sounds like they have. They're really happy about the data they've gotten back from the car. And on top of all of that, Glenn, they still have a lot of budget left. They haven't hit the cost cap yet, so they can go and develop this car further, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to be bringing more components to this thing. And so if you're a driver like Fernando Alonso, you have to be happy about hearing all of that, because at this moment, Fernando chasing down Sergio Perez to try and capture second in the driver's standings.
Yeah, we need some kind of drama in these standings, right? He's our F1 analyst, Tim Hauraney.